It's my great pleasure to welcome and congratulate the folks that we're having the privilege to congratulate today, and thank everybody for joining us that are here in person or joining us on the webcast for our second annual California State University Police Commendations and Award Ceremony. And even though this is only the second year and moving forward we're going to make this an annual ceremony, it's one that already holds a special place in my heart, and I think so many other hearts as well. And in just a few minutes, when you hear the stories of the heroic actions these brave women and men have taken on our behalf to ensure the safety and well-being of our students, of our faculty, of our staff, of our guests, I know you will understand why. These are officers for whom above and beyond the call of duty is actually a daily commitment. And they are truly among the very finest of our remarkable California State University law enforcement team. To begin our ceremony, we've asked Chief Fernando Solorzano, the Chief of Police on the Long Beach campus, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, after which Adam Day, the Chair of the Board of Trustees, will share his thoughts as well. Chief, would you do us the honor?
Thank you, Dr. White. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. Place your right hand over your heart. Face the flags. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Dr. White, Chancellor White. Excuse me. Well, you're a doctor too. You have many titles. And thank you all for joining us today. It is truly an immense honor to participate in today's ceremony. And as the Chancellor said, only the second such ceremony. And it's been my good fortune to be chair for both of these ceremonies so far, and I think it's a great tradition to continue. Some of you know in my daytime job, I work for a Native American tribe. And it's a Native American tribe that has a pretty robust tribal government operation. And part of my role is to oversee all the various governmental operations, including the only tribal police force in California that is cross-deputized to enforce both federal and state criminal law, as well as, of course, our own tribal law. And a little known fact, we actually have the ability to do that both on and off the reservation. So I know all of you here are seasoned law enforcement professionals. Don't let anyone else know how difficult of a task and accomplishment that was to get, but it means a lot to us as a tribe, and it means a lot that we work so closely with law enforcement, and we earn law enforcement's respect to earn their support to get that authority. Before that, I served 11 years working in the County of San Diego and developed close working relationships with our county sheriff, our county district attorney, probation department, the judicial branch. All that to say that serving now in my role on this board and as chair of the Board of Trustees, it means that I have an abiding respect, and I feel for all of you very deeply, and it's rooted in an understanding of the commitment that you bring to work with you each and every day. It is humbling to stand before you in the company of men and women whose sworn duty to protect and serve others means a willingness to put themselves in mortal danger. And I've seen that firsthand. We can never thank you enough for all that you do and all that you stand prepared to do for the students, faculty, staff, and community of the California State University. But today, we have set aside time to try and do just that, to recognize those who unhesitatingly answered the call when it came, and in doing so, ably represented all of those who wear the uniform of California State University police personnel. Thank you for your ongoing commitment to the greater good. Thank you for keeping the peace, and thank you for keeping us safe. Yours is a noble and distinguished profession. It needs to be honored and respected, and you are to be congratulated on this well-deserved recognition. Thank you. Chancellor White.
Well, thank you, Adam, for those not only eloquent but moving remarks. Before I turn the program over to Trustee Wenda Fong for a presentation of the awards, I too want to express on behalf of the entire CSU, when you say that, it's a pretty big group of people, 52,000 some odd employees and approaching 490,000 students. And just yesterday, we started thinking about all of our alumni and came to the conclusion that 3.8 million people, if it was a state, would be the size of the 29th largest state in the union. So this is a big enterprise that we're thanking you on behalf of. But my gratitude for your professionalism, your discipline, your friendship, taking care of us in this building, especially during trustees meetings, to help me and my family when there's trouble out there as well. And then you are, as Adam said, on any given moment, ready to walk into something you have no idea what you're walking into, but you're prepared. The integrity that you perform helps create a learning environment for our students and a creative environment for our faculty to feel safe in, and so they can go about their business of teaching, learning, of research and discovery. That inspiration that you provide, that comfort you provide, and knowledge that you bring to the campuses goes a long ways in making our learning environment as vibrant as it is. So again, my sincere thanks to each of you and to all of you. And now we will turn it over to Trustee Wenda Fong, who will present the commendations. Wenda? Yeah. Thank you, Wenda.
Thank you. Thank you, Chancellor White. I am deeply honored to once again host this ceremony and to help recognize and celebrate the bravery and compassion of the police officers associated with the California State University. The commemorative program you all have received includes photos of the officers along with the descriptions of their heroic and remarkable actions that qualify these men and women for the awards that they are receiving today. Our first group of recipients will be receiving the Life-Saving Medal, conferred on an officer whose direct action was responsible for saving another person's life. First to receive this award is from Fresno State. Ladies and gentlemen, Officer George Rascone. On May 9th, 2018, Officer Rascone was playing golf in Fresno when another golfer complained of discomfort before suddenly clutching his chest and collapsing. Officer Rascone rushed to the scene and ascertained that the man had stopped breathing and had no pulse. He immediately began CPR while another golfer dialed 911. At the conclusion of the third cycle of CPR, the subject came to and gasped for air. When Fresno Fire Department and Emergency Medical Services personnel arrived, they found the patient conscious and transported him to the hospital where he was treated and released the next day. Without the immediate response and decisive actions taken by Officer Rascone, it is clear that the subject would not have survived. Officer George Rascone, please come forward to receive your life-saving medal from Chancellor White. Our next recipient is Officer Ricardo Pena from Cal State LA. On June 4th, 2018, Officer Pena responded to a call that a 52-year-old man in a wheelchair was having difficulty breathing at the campus transit center. As Officer Pena approached the patient, the man, a campus employee, suddenly stopped breathing and became pale and unresponsive. Officer Pena immediately began administering CPR, which proved difficult because the subject was a quadriplegic and was secured in a motorized wheelchair. However, Officer Pena persisted in administering CPR until the fire department arrived and took over. The patient responded to the CPR and began breathing on his own. He was then transported to a local hospital where he fully recovered and was able to return to work on campus. Officer Pena's attention to duty and quick actions to begin CPR directly contributed to saving the subject's life. Receiving the life-saving medal from Chancellor White on behalf of Officer Ricardo Pena is Cal State LA Chief of Police Larry Bohannon. Next, let me share the story of Sergeant Rocky Johnson and Officer Vanessa Marino from Cal State San Bernardino. On the morning of March 23, 2018, Officer Marino responded to a report that a faculty member was having chest pains and experiencing tingling in her arms. Arriving on scene, Officer Marino retrieved an automated external defibrillator and headed to the third floor, where she found the faculty member lying face down. Checking for signs of life, she found that the subject was unresponsive, not breathing, and without a pulse. Adjusting the patient into a supine position, Officer Marino prepped the AED and cleared the subject's clothing. Sergeant Johnson arrived and immediately applied the AED pads to the subject's chest and began CPR. The officers then activated the AED's electric shock mechanism. The subject continued to show no signs of life, so the officers reinitiated CPR as they waited for fire and ambulance to arrive. A pulse was subsequently detected and the subject was transferred to the hospital. The faculty member is steadily recovering and is grateful for the life-saving efforts of Sergeant Johnson and Officer Marino. Receiving the life-saving medal from Chancellor White on behalf of Sergeant Rocky Johnson and Officer Vanessa Marino is Cal State San Bernardino Chief of Police Nina Jamson. Our next honorees are from San Diego State, Officer Ivan Sanchez, and ladies and gentlemen, Officer Mike Troller. In the early morning hours of July 2nd, 2018, Officer Sanchez was flagged down by a concerned citizen who reported that a subject had climbed outside the railing of the Aztec Student Union footbridge and appeared to be preparing to jump. Arriving on scene, Officer Sanchez saw that the 18-year-old male was visibly upset and crying. At the time Officer Troller arrived, both officers engaged the subject in conversation while remaining calm and maintaining non-threatening demeanors. Through effective communication and establishing rapport, Officers Sanchez and Troller were able to convince the young man to come back inside the railing of the bridge. The subject was detained for psychological evaluation without further incident. By demonstrating effective and compassionate communication, the officers were able to resolve the incident peacefully and without injury, ultimately saving the young man's life. Officer Troller, please come forward and receive the life-saving medal from Chancellor White. And receiving the life-saving medal on behalf of Officer Ivan Sanchez is San Diego State University Chief of Police Josh Mays. We will now honor Corporal Scott Bukovic, Officer Manuel Chaidez, and Officer Bridget Galindo from San Jose State. On the evening of February 21st, 2019, a professor experienced a heart attack while lecturing in the Dwight Bentall Hall and remained unresponsive as students came to his aid. A student attending the lecture advised that she was certified in CPR and began rendering aid while the group called 911. Corporal Bukovic arrived and took command of the scene, clearing the crowd away from the subject and advising the student to continue providing CPR. Corporal Bukovic observed that the professor was not breathing and did not have a pulse. He prepared his automated external defibrillator and began attaching contacts to the subject's chest. Corporal Bukovic then relieved the student and continued CPR as Officers Chaidez and Galindo arrived on the scene. Officer Chaidez assisted with attaching the AED to the subject's chest, and Officer Galindo began emergency breaths. The trio worked in sync as they continued CPR and initiated an electric shock through the AED. The subject responded positively and began breathing. After being transported to a hospital for treatment, the professor underwent a quadruple bypass. The actions of Corporal Bukovic, Officer Chaidez, and Officer Galindo saved the professor from an otherwise certain death. Receiving the life-saving medal from Chancellor White on behalf of Corporal Scott Bukovic, Officer Manuel Chaidez, and Officer Bridget Galindo is San Jose State University Vice President Charlie Foss. We will now honor from CSUN, ladies and gentlemen, Dispatcher Mary Dardun. While performing her regular duties as a dispatcher on November 24th, 2018, Dispatcher Dardun began conducting random checks on the CSUN surveillance camera system on her own accord and observed an unknown male duct taping a tube from an exhaust tailpipe into the interior compartment of the vehicle. Dispatcher Dardun recognized the significance of the event and immediately dispatched officers to the roof of the parking structure to investigate a possible suicide attempt. As a result of Dispatcher Dardun's observations and subsequent dispatch, officers were able to quickly respond and intervene, preventing the man from committing suicide. He was ultimately taken by ambulance to the hospital for psychiatric evaluation and treatment. More than 350 cameras feed into the CSUN Dispatch Center. The cameras are monitored by an advanced analytics system, which generally alerts dispatchers to specific activity based on time of day and other criteria. However, in this case, it was not the analytics, but Dispatcher Dardun's unprompted actions and proactive approach that undoubtedly prevented a tragedy. Dispatcher Mary Dardun, please come forward and receive the life-saving medal. Our next recipient is from Chico State. Ladies and gentlemen, Officer Alexander Scott. On September 19th, 2018, Officer Scott responded to a routine medical call, reporting a student in Whitney Hall who was unconscious but still breathing. When Officer Scott arrived at the men's restroom on the 3rd floor, he saw the student slumped on the floor of a stall. Assessing that the student was not breathing, his skin pale and lips blue, Officer Scott recognized that the situation was dire. After checking the student's vitals and being unable to detect a heartbeat, Officer Scott immediately began CPR. He notified dispatch of the situation and continued administering CPR for several minutes until fire department personnel arrived. The student was transported to a local hospital where it was ultimately determined that he had an underlying and previously undiagnosed heart condition. At the hospital, medical staff were able to maintain a regular heartbeat and attributed the chest compressions performed in the residence hall as instrumental in saving the student's life. Today, the student has resumed his studies on campus. Officer Alexander Scott, please come forward and receive the life-saving medal from Chancellor White. Our next honorees are from CSU Monterey Bay. Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant Yvonne Gordon and Corporal Joseph Prebula. On November 3rd, 2018, Corporal Prebula and Sergeant Gordon were assigned to a night watch patrol and responded to a report of a possible gunshot victim at an East Campus residence. Corporal Prebula arrived on scene first, where he was met by multiple people screaming and yelling. Corporal Prebula was able to determine that the male, located inside of a locked vehicle in an open garage, had suffered a gunshot wound and was in possession of a firearm. While the yelling continued, Corporal Prebula approached the garage and saw the vehicle's brake lights flicker as the subject pushed the brake in and out. Because the man was in possession of a firearm and still actively moving, Corporal Prebula drew his firearm and used the garage entryway as cover. As Corporal Prebula attempted to give the subject commands, the gathering crowd began to close in on him, yelling at him not to shoot the man inside the vehicle. Corporal Prebula requested more units and continued to give the man commands while dealing with the growing crowd and the subject's distraught 7-month pregnant girlfriend. Shortly thereafter, Sergeant Gordon arrived. The two officers approached the vehicle from both sides, with Sergeant Gordon giving Corporal Prebula instructions as she looked into the vehicle from the passenger side. When Corporal Prebula approached the vehicle driver's side, he could see a firearm on the man's lap and determined that the man had suffered a gunshot wound to his head. After trying the vehicle's door handle and discovering that it was locked, Corporal Prebula broke the window using his baton, secured the firearm, and unlocked the vehicle. As Corporal Prebula attempted to apply aid, the subject reached up several times, trying to pull his hand from the wound on which he was applying pressure. The subject was ultimately extracted from the vehicle and transported to a local hospital. Due to the quick and courageous actions of Corporal Prebula and Sergeant Gordon, the subject survived the self-inflicted gunshot wound with near complete recovery and was able to witness the birth of his first child, a daughter, a few weeks after the incident. Corporal Joseph Prebula, please come forward and receive the life-saving medal from Chancellor White. Sergeant Yvonne Gordon, please come forward and receive the life-saving medal. We will now honor Officer Amanda McCarthy from Cal State Fullerton. In the early morning hours of November 6, 2018, Officer McCarthy responded to a report of a medical emergency, a male in cardiac arrest in the Juniper dorms. When Officer McCarthy arrived, she found a man in prone position who was pale and not breathing. 2 Fullerton students were already performing CPR. Officer McCarthy immediately applied the defibrillator, causing the subject to move upward and start having irregular breaths. He began moving his arms and moaning. Officer McCarthy then conducted a sternum rub, but the subject did not respond. She tilted his head back and attempted to move his jaw to check for obstructions, but could not do so because his jaw was locked. Officer McCarthy continued CPR until the Fullerton Fire Department arrived on scene and took over. The subject was then transported to a hospital where he subsequently made a full and complete recovery. The victim would not have survived without the immediate response and decisive actions taken by Officer McCarthy. Receiving the life-saving medal on behalf of Amanda McCarthy is Cal State Fullerton Chief of Police Raymond Aguirre. Our next honorees are also from Cal State Fullerton. Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant Peter Dupree, Officer Steve Nelson, and Officer Tangku Xiang. Late in the evening of March 9th, 2019, a student flagged down a community service officer to report that a friend had fallen asleep in one of the Sycamore dorms and would not wake up. University Police Department units were immediately dispatched to the location. Officer Xiang was the first to arrive and found the subject unconscious and not breathing. He immediately applied the AED and began CPR. Sergeant Dupree and Officer Nelson then arrived on scene and took over CPR. After several cycles of CPR, the officers were able to detect a pulse. However, the subject was not breathing on his own, so the officers continued rescue breaths until paramedics arrived on scene. The paramedics administered 2 doses of Narcan, and the subject started breathing. However, he was still unresponsive and he was transported to a medical facility for treatment. The quick thinking and immediate actions of Officer Xiang, Sergeant Nelson, and Officer Dupree were instrumental in saving the subject's life. He has since recovered and is doing well. Officer Tangku Xiang, please come forward and receive the life-saving medal. Officer Peter Dupree, please come forward and receive the life-saving medal. Sergeant Steve Nelson, please come forward and receive the life-saving medal. Our final life-saving medal recipient is also from Cal State Fullerton. Ladies and gentlemen, Corporal Thomas Perez. Late in the morning of September 21st, 2018, Corporal Thomas Perez responded to a report of a screaming woman on the top floor ledge of the east side parking structure. The first officer to arrive on scene, Corporal Perez saw that the woman was visibly upset and crying uncontrollably while dangling her feet over the edge. After coming closer to her, he determined that in her volatile emotional state, the subject could potentially jump off the ledge and commit suicide within a matter of seconds. Corporal Perez made the split-second decision to rescue her by physically grabbing her and pulling her away from the ledge. The woman struggled with him, yelling, "No, no, no, just let me do it." Corporal Perez was able to overcome her resistance and get her away from the ledge area. It was later discovered that the woman had attempted to kill herself on 2 previous occasions. The police officers are charged with many duties, the greatest of which is that of saving another person's life. Corporal Perez upheld that duty. His situational awareness, quick response, and immediate action saved the subject's life that day. Corporal Thomas Perez, please come forward and receive the life-saving medal. The next group of recipients will receive the Unit Meritorious Medal. The Unit Meritorious Medal is awarded for exceptional service in a duty of great responsibility or critical importance. First to receive the medal is from Sonoma State University Police Department. Late in the evening of October 8, 2017, Napa County emergency dispatchers received numerous phone calls reporting a wildfire in the area of Tubbs Lane in Calistoga, approximately 12 miles east of Sonoma State University. Moved by strong winds, the Stubbs fire erupted and moved a distance of 12 miles in just 3 hours. By that time, the fire had entered eastern Santa Rosa and crossed Highway 101, destroying homes, businesses, and vegetation. The fire was unstoppable. More fires erupted in Sonoma County, including the Adobe and Nuns Fire, which spread to within 1 mile of Sonoma State University. As the magnitude of the regional fires grew, it became apparent that Sonoma State was in their path. The Emergency Operations Center was activated, and all available university police personnel not evacuating their own families from the wildfire's path reported to the EOC. Intelligence was scarce given the chaos, forcing a police manager to physically enter the active fire zones to obtain information to assist with EOC decision-making. The situation was tense, uncertain, and rapidly evolving. The air was thick and with acrid smoke and embers. Over the course of 9 days, 5,643 homes within the region were lost, including those belonging to a Sonoma State University police employee and President Judy Sakaki. Dispatchers, officers, and one manager worked around the clock to protect the university, its staff, and students from the devastating fires. Patrol teams were also deployed to monitor the nearby fires and prevent looting. Due to the significant drain on fire department resources, university police officers were truly first responders during the initial stages of the emergency. While on patrol, one university police sergeant located an arsonist and arrested him on a variety of charges. Through their selfless actions during one of the region's most devastating tragedies, the Sonoma State University Police Department team demonstrated heroism, dedication, sacrifice, professionalism, and bravery. Chief Dave Doherty will receive the Unit Meritorious Medal on behalf of the Sonoma State University Police Department. We will now honor the Chico State University Police Department. When the Camp Fire broke out in Butte County on November 8, 2018, police officers, dispatchers, and other staff members of the Chico State University Police Department performed in an exemplary manner above and beyond the call of duty. 2 on-duty officers who themselves were losing their homes in the fire responded to the City of Paradise to assist with evacuations, search and rescue operations, and other vital emergency response efforts. Off-duty officers and dispatchers reported for duty to backfill for 6 members whose families were being evacuated from the fire zone. During the fire itself, in the days and weeks that followed, personnel worked around the clock at the incident command post to coordinate, plan, and direct emergency response and recovery efforts alongside representatives of local, state, and national public safety agencies. As the days progressed, officers volunteered on coroner incident response teams, tasked with the search and recovery of human remains, patrolled areas of the City of Paradise and Butte County to supplement affected police services, and came together with colleagues from across the region to support the physical, mental, and emotional wellness of personnel who had responded to the campfire and its aftermath. Through the extraordinary efforts of the personnel during the state's deadliest and most destructive fire on record, the Chico State University Police Department proved itself an invaluable asset, not only to the CSU, but to Butte County and the North State as well. Chief John Reed will receive the Unit Meritorious Medal on behalf of the Chico State University Police Department. Next, we will honor the California State University Critical Response Unit. In November 2018, while at training, California State University Critical Response Unit members were directed to immediately deploy to Chico State and CSU Channel Islands to support public safety needs in response to wildfires burning in those areas. Crew leadership worked through the deployment with the expectation that crew members would be on scene at both campuses in less than 24 hours. Crew members immediately began working to respond. In some cases, members were required to return to their home campuses to collect additional equipment and then immediately turn around and travel back to Chico or Channel Island campuses. Crew members began to arrive in Chico less than 24 hours after being ordered to deploy. They took on assignments that included deployment to the front lines of the fire response in support of evacuation, search and recovery, and preventative patrol. Other crew members were tasked with supporting campus patrol and response duties, since 4 Chico State police officers had homes in the fire zone and were occupied with the care and support of their families. In all, crew was deployed to Chico for 2 weeks and performed at a remarkably high level in extremely difficult conditions. Chief Dario Robinson and Chief John Reed will receive the Unit Meritorious Medal on behalf of the California State University Critical Response Unit. Our final group of recipients will receive the Meritorious Service Medal. The Meritorious Service Medal is awarded to an individual for exceptional service in a duty of great responsibility or critical importance. We will now honor from the Sacramento State University Police Department, ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant Jeffrey Reinell, Officer Matthew Light, Officer John Parker, Officer Diane Patton, Officer Nathan Rice, and Detective Jason Johnston. Around noon on August 17th, 2018, the Sacramento State University Police Department received a call from the California Highway Patrol that one of its patrol cars had been stolen from a traffic scene and was in the vicinity of the campus. Sergeant Jeffrey Reinell, Officers John Parker, Nathan Rice, Diane Patton, and Matthew Light all responded to the call. Sergeant Reinell located the abandoned patrol car on a campus roadway and determined that the subject had used the car's emergency lights to stop a busload of students from San Joaquin Delta College and pulled the bus driver out by force. The suspect then told the passengers that he was going to take them for a ride and drove northbound through the campus. Officers converged on the north end of the campus and observed the bus stopped in traffic with passengers screaming and trying to escape out of the windows. Officers Light and Parker quickly approached the bus and opened the driver's door. The suspect was disheveled and sweating profusely. The officers ordered the subject onto the ground at gunpoint. The suspect did not comply and instead turned away and began fumbling with something in his hands. The officers used great restraint at that point and did not fire. Instead, they quickly advanced on the subject. Officer Parker used a takedown maneuver to subdue him, with Officer Rice, Officer Light, and a CHP officer assisting. The situation ended without significant injury to any passengers or the suspect. Officer Patton and Detective Johnston arrived and assisted with stabilizing the scene and with the subsequent investigation. Interviews with the passengers on the bus revealed that some believed they were going to be killed. The quick and decisive action of these brave officers in resolving the situation is a credit to the Sacramento State University Police Department. Sergeant Jeffrey Reinell, please step forward to receive the Meritorious Service Medal from Chancellor White. Officer Matthew Light, please step forward to receive your Meritorious Service Medal. Officer John Parker, please step forward to receive the Meritorious Service Medal. Officer Diane Patton, please step forward to receive the Meritorious Service Medal. Detective Jason Johnston, please step forward to receive your Meritorious Service Medal. And receiving the medal from Chancellor White on behalf of Officer Nathan Rice is Sacramento State University Chief of Police, Mark M. Iwasa. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a final expression of our heartfelt appreciation and deep respect for the courageous and highly skilled work demonstrated by these exemplary and extraordinary officers. Officers, please stand. I now invite you to join us in the Wallace area for a celebratory reception. You will find staff available at the back door of the auditorium who will direct you. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for watching, and see you next year.